3, hold the air. I see the subject inside. Looks like he's got a gun in his hand and he's pointing at the clerk. Guys, I've got the south covered behind you. Watch the crossfire. Running southbound, Rob. He's coming right at you.
All units, Victor 3, Victor 5 are fighting with 1. Hold the air.
Victor 3, slow down. Subject in custody. Firearm recovered.
Copy that. Command clear. Subject is in custody for the robbery. Firearms recovered.
Hey, welcome back. Hold the Air podcast. To my right is Rob Forbes.
Yeah, man.
I'm John Cosme. Hope you guys had a great holiday season. Hope Christmas was well. I hope New Year's was well. If you're struggling with anything, ask somebody for help. That's important. We're real excited today.
Yeah, we are. We got great energy today, man.
Yeah.
You lost your phone.
Yeah.
You found it.
Yeah.
Right? Lions got a huge game today.
Biggest game.
Go Lions, right?
Biggest game ever.
Right?
Ever.
We got a bomb-ass guest in here.
Yes, we do.
We got a lot of greatness just oozing right now. All right, so bring us up to speed. Who we got today, man? I'm super pumped.
Yeah, so we have a current employee of our alma mater, Lansing Police Department. We had the privilege of working with our guest today, not only as a patrol person, but also on a specialized team. We got to see how talented she was, how open she was to learning, how quickly she became a leader in her own regard, and just flat out one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Ever.
So with having said all that, the Hold the Air podcast warmly welcomes Hannah Idalski, because she just got married.
Yes.
To the studio.
Welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
So typically what we do is, we want to hear your background, your on-ramp, so to speak to law enforcement. But before you hit that up, we're doing a series dedicated to women in law enforcement, and you were at the top of the list. We've worked together with you for a long time, and, we're on the violent crime team together. I hope that we can share with the audience some of our experience in that, because the team was just flat out awesome. And so understand that you're part of a series that we're doing, and I could not be more proud to have you in the studio. Thank you for coming here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It means the world that I was on the list of people that you wanted to be here, and to be able to sit with my friends again is great.
Yeah. So when did it pop into little Hannah's head that she wanted to be the police?
Well, I was in high school. I think it was around then that I started realizing my interests were a little different than my peers. And I started to look at kind of the commonality in the things that I was interested in. I knew I wanted to work with people. I knew I wanted to do something that mattered. And I knew that the things that I enjoyed, the books that I was reading, the shows that I was watching, things like that, all kind of had this vein of public service, right? So I had started to think about what that might look like and what I might want to do there. And police work was one of the things that I started to entertain. And then, like so many other people, I did a couple ride-alongs, and that was the end of that.
Was there an intimidation factor that you spent a lot of time thinking about?
Well, I don't think I spent a lot of time thinking about that specifically. For me, it was one of the reasons I got into the field, and also has been one of my biggest challenges since, has been my ego. So I saw the job as a challenge, right? I want to go out there. I want to prove that I can do it. I want to I want to be the best at this. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that was the angle that my brain was looking at it from, was like, well, who says I can't do that? And that's kind of what was guiding my thoughts as I was entering the job. I agree with you. I didn't have a realistic view of what I was getting into. I was 22 when I started, and
wow.
So I was a functional idiot for sure. But
most 22-year-olds are. Right?
Yeah. So I had no concept of what I was really getting into. But I think that little chip on my shoulder allowed me to push through when I needed to.
Right. Okay. So then, how did it start? Like, did you go to a certain college? What academy did you go to?
Yep. So I went to MSU, Go Green.
Yeah.
And I did a couple internships during college. But there were two favorites that I did. My first was with Homeland Security Investigations, which is the investigative arm of ICE. So I was at the Detroit field office for a summer, and it was awesome. I got to do a lot of, I basically had a caseload because looking back, they were as understaffed as we understand we are now.
Yeah.
But I was basically carrying a caseload as an intern. I got I got to help on surveillance. I got to do some warrant service. I mean, it was the real deal. So I really enjoyed that. And at that time, I was kind of in the back and forth between should I do federal law enforcement or local law enforcement. And at the end of my internship there, the special agent in charge of the Detroit field office sat me down. He said, so this is where I usually get to offer you a job, but we're on a hiring freeze.
Oh my goodness.
So here's a challenge coin. Thanks so much. And I was like, man, that sucks. And I said, so what's, let's say that I do want to come back to you. What does my path look like? And he said, well, you should either go get a master's or go to work. I said, okay, well, I'm going to go to work then. So I started looking around at just some local, options. I knew, so when I was in college, I was a desk cadet at MSUPD. So I've got a lot of love for that department. That's kind of where I came from.
Yep.
But I knew, man, everybody was always talking about LPD. Everybody was always talking about Lansing as the big dogs or the big brother. And that caught my attention. So I did an internship with LPD, and that was it. I absolutely loved everything about LPD. And it's the best decision I've ever made. I think that, maybe I could have done exactly what he said and work a couple years and then reapply, because the hiring has opened up since then, but I'm all set. I think the real police work happens with local cops. No offense to our federal friends here, but
right.
I think that's where real police work happens. And if you do it the right way, you can do all the same things that you would do in the feds. So
and still make those relationships like you did later, and we'll get into that. Yeah, that's awesome.
So you got what year did you start here in Lansing? Is for the police department?
2014.
So you've got 10 years on.
I do.
So take us through the track of, because one of the things that's most exciting for us to have you in to the studio is you're not just a great cop that we know. You are super involved, and we love that about you. So why don't you land in a couple of spots that you're involved with within the police department? I know you're hugely influential in the negotiating team,
Peer recovery,
peer support. You've been involved with that. Take us, land us in a couple of spots here that you've got influence with.
Yeah. So I started. I've done most of my time in patrol on night shift. That's kind of where home is. So
north side or south side?
North side.
That's right.
West side's the best side, baby.
That's right. The west side is the best side. Hell yeah.
Yep. So I've been a North Ender on night shift. That's home to me. So everywhere that I've gone, I've kind of come back there. I've done some time with the Explorer program. I really enjoyed being a mentor there. I've dabbled in recruiting. My favorite assignment I've had so far is VCI, with you guys on the best VCI team in history, if I may.
Oh boy!
Hey, I'm not. If anybody wants to challenge that, come correct, because
scoreboard, but that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
No, anyways, so I got to do 3 years on VCI, which was just an amazing assignment. Came back to road patrol for a little bit. I was on noon shift, and then I got promoted. Did my first year of my promotion back on night shift, which was just amazing to kind of go, like I said, go home, go back to my roots on nights, and be able to explore some leadership there was really cool. And then recently, I've transitioned over to the jail. So,
yeah, right on. So, I would like to just kind of segue into the negotiator piece here, because we've touched on a couple times before that's not a strength of mine to be able to facilitate crisis negotiation, but I am in the presence of greatness with the two of you, because I cannot wait for the audience to hear your negotiating background. I know that we'll get there at some point, but through a lot of your mentorship, let's face it, Hannah has had a thriving negotiating career, not to exclude 2024 Negotiator of the Year. That's a huge deal.
Let's give it up.
That's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. And I can't wait for you to describe, what a negotiator means to you. And maybe you can tell us a highlight of an incident that you've helped with. But it's really heavy on my heart before I tee it up for you to say this. I think that a huge component of police work, and it does not matter if you're male or female,
right,
or brown or white or from Mars or Earth, it does not matter. I think that there is one commonality that has always remained a constant through generations of policing, which is the more you get people to feel heard, the more effective you are. And I think the three of us are really strong in that area of getting someone that you don't know. It's an art. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of it comes with experience. But in my opinion, nobody is better than you at getting someone that you don't know, that's in crisis, that they feel it, man. They understand that you're the real police. You're someone that is going to get to the real issue here. Because I think a lot of times, and you guys, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's probably one of the biggest levers with negotiating is if they feel heard, the faster they trust you, the faster this ends peacefully.
Yes.
Right? Like,
100%.
What, tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% accurate with that. What made you so good early, Hannah, like when we first started to work together on the negotiating team, you have a massively genuine heart. Like you don't start from a position of judgment. You don't act like the conversation's an inconvenience because it's the end of shift and we've got a barricaded person and I'm supposed to go home. You welcomed whatever role was asked of you, and that was early on. Like when we picked you to be on the team, the special ones just give a damn anyway. So I'm sure like you give a damn in your personal life. I'm sure you give a damn with everything that you try to be involved in. I think Beau Idalski is one of the luckiest guys on the planet, and I mean that because some people listen, right? You listen with your whole body. You know what I mean? Like when someone's talking to you, you shut everything else out, and you pay attention with your eyes. You don't interrupt. You wait for the moment to interject. You just had all these intangibles right from the beginning, so it's no surprise to me that you're negotiated 2024 because I would have been surprised if you didn't get it. And that team's flat out awesome, by the way, currently, and the people that taught us. Eventually, we taught you, Darren Southworth. I mean, are you kidding me?
You cannot measure that man's influence.
No, Jake Sink.
Yep.
Jake Sink was a phenomenal negotiator. Kasha, right? Mandy. There's just I wish I would have done it as early as you did it.
Really, what you're dispatched to isn't the real issue.
Yeah.
Right? It's what prompted your arrival.
Right.
But what that person that's in crisis really wants to talk about isn't in your call notes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And then times it by 10, right, Hannah? Because that's a in the moment call on your screen. You handle the call, you leave, write the report, make an arrest or whatever. Now he's barricaded. Now he's got or she's got time to think. Now they're in a really critical part of their mindset. You know what I mean? They know the reality of it. They might not know the reality of it. People could get hurt, right? You can't just go into the house and take the firearm. I mean, you've got to literally negotiate all of what you just described, and it may take 15 minutes. It could take an hour. It's so challenging that once you've cycled through that a handful of times, and I know that you've done it, Hannah. The situation you're describing, easy peasy.
Sure.
Because you don't have to remind yourself to give a damn. You start your shift every day knowing that you might get that call to really hunker down on some. So how many years you been on the negotiating team?
I came out in 2017.
2017. roughly, do you know how many critical instances you've been involved in?
I'm over 100.
Yeah.
But I don't know specifically over 100.
Right. In that short time span. One that jumps out of your mind, like the one that where you got challenged the most.
So I think the most memorable call out for me so far has been one. I think it was 3 years ago now, right around this time of year. So bitter cold. And it started like many things do as a seemingly innocuous road call with the shots fired. And some of our night shift officers are doing their investigation and they go to make contact at a house and all of a sudden they're taking rounds. It was a call out that kind of, we pulled out all the stops, right? So many different aspects of what the team does we got to do. And I got to be part of kind of, supervising the negotiation side of it and seeing how talented our team is and the way that they overcame a lot of challenges that we had.
Yeah.
With, establishing communication, maintaining communication, working through drug intoxication and mental illness and what's what and how many people are in the house. And ultimately, we played a role in the resolution, but actually this one was a tactical resolution.
Yep.
Which is always kind of a chip on our shoulders a little bit. We like to talk
You
about.
like to see him walk out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to get those boys all dressed up with nowhere to go, but I mean, on a serious note, that's my dedication and my inclination for service doesn't just stop at the community, right? Like I'm very passionate about a peaceful resolution to things, not just for the safety of the community, but man, I feel a huge obligation to our partners. I really do genuinely love when they don't get to go in.
Yeah.
Because, or they go into an empty house to clear it. Because if I can play a role in mitigating the danger that they have to go through, it's huge for me. And that's something that I really try to impart on the team is like, we as negotiators, we have a lever that we can pull, right? If we fail, we have a lever that we can pull and the entry team's going in.
Yep.
And they don't have that. So we're their insurance.
Yes.
So let's do a good job. Let's be passionate about what we do. And do the right thing so that they don't have to go in.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just to follow up, that was probably in my memory, as long as I was on the hostage or the negotiating team, that was a complete scenario. Like Hannah's saying, every tool that we had was used. We had to create scenarios. We had to, literally we had two tactical teams that were cycling in and out because the cold was so bad. We had negotiators taking the lead, and then the next negotiator would take the lead, coaches, every facet. And we were out there for hours. And like you said, ultimately we had the subject come out to us. Officers weren't shot. He wasn't shot, and I can remember thinking about that one specifically when I got home. I just felt like a massive amount of honor to taking the time to be trained and to learn from all the people. And I don't want to leave out Joel Myers because I learned so much from Joel Myers as a negotiator, and as a human being, but as a negotiator, Joel Myers to me was probably one of the most impactful people in that space. But yeah, it was the real deal, and it was hours and hours and hours and hours. And the next scenario was just a little easier because that one was so challenging, right? Yeah. And you never know. You could be on a 3 or 4 hour negotiation, and it could end peacefully. You could be on a 5-minute negotiation and it turns violent. You know what I mean? So you got to really lean into, and thanks to all the people that have trained us, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Our federal, we were joking earlier about our federal counterparts. We've attended federally funded negotiating schools. And I don't know, it would take me all day to give shout outs to all the folks that were involved in that, but how useful was that training?
Talk to us about how do you take something that you're called to as a negotiator that is the definition of out of control? If you're getting the page to come out to this scene, it's as deep as it gets in that moment. If you can kind of describe what you kind of go through mentally to try to connect with someone who's in crisis.
So there's kind of an idiom in the negotiation world. Just talk to me, right? And I've always said, if we can get them on the phone, we're already winning. If we're talking to somebody,
yes.
we're already winning. I love our odds with a phone conversation, right? I love our odds with a face-to-face conversation, because if you can get someone talking, that's half the battle. Because there's different, tricks and tools and things like that you can employ to kind of break down the feelings of what people are going through. But there's two things that are really on our side. The first is time. There's a process called venting, right? We're familiar with it. You're mad, you just got to get it out, and then you feel better later. But that's also a physiological process that people are going through when they have time to scream, to yell, to get their feelings out, to say things that they might not say otherwise. All of that is helping to bring their brain back to equilibrium. So time. That's the number one thing. We get them on the phone and we let them yell. You can scream at me. You can do what you need, because I understand that this isn't personal. Mm-hmm. This is a physiological process that you have to go through before you're ready to really talk to me, right? Yeah. So, but that's step one. We got to get through that part. The second thing, and it's something that you guys hit on earlier, there's magic in giving a shit about people. There really is. It's magic.
It's a super
when it's genuine.
Yes.
Because they have to feel it.
Oh,
because
yeah.
if they don't feel it, it goes, and I can, even though I'm not a negotiator, I can attest to this from 25 years in the street, and you will too, right? If they smell it on you that you're just waiting to go to lunch or whatever, and you're just going through and checking boxes, forget it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I right? And I'm sure that the stakes are even higher as a negotiator when it's all on the line. 100%.
Yes.
And do your job.
Right.
That's what you're there to do. You're not there to pout about being inconvenienced. You're there to provide some level of service, which goes right back to the original reason that you got involved in it. You just felt like there was a calling for you to put yourself in voluntarily put yourself in those kind of positions.
Right. So
prior to negotiation, right? Because this is something that I'm really interested to hear from the female guests in this series, because I think the basis to any male or female police officer's success in the beginning, because eventually you find your way, is those that trained you, right? So can you speak about the field training officers that you had experience with and the benefit of having a good FTO?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as I look back at at my FTOs, I think maybe in the moment I didn't understand the gravity of who was training me, because I was new and I was trying to figure out which one was my head and which one was my ass. And, I'm trying to remember which block number I'm in and, all of that. So I don't think I really understood the gravity of it. But looking back now, I can see that I was forged from giants. I mean, Kasha Osborne was my main FTO. She was my phase one and my shadow. She kind of sandwiched my training, and I sure understand why we didn't get along when I was an FTO now, because we're so similar, right? Yeah. And she was tough on me, but it was good. It made me who I am. It really did. I had Kasha, Frank Mobley was one of my FTOs, Marcus Johnson, Corey Campbell. These are people that all brought different skill sets to the table, but definitely challenged me in different ways and kind of made me, who I am. I don't think it's any coincidence that two of my FTOs were negotiators.
Right. That's a great list of FTOs. That's a phenomenal list. You said Kasha, Frank, Campbell, Marcus. Yeah, that's a phenomenal group of FTOs.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And I didn't, at the time I'm trying to remember which way's north. So I don't think I really sunk in until later how lucky I was.
Did you ever feel during that process that and I wouldn't imagine this, but that any of those FTOs, with the exception of Kasha, question your ability to do the job because you're a female?
No, I never felt that.
Yeah,
I never did. And I think that was important for me too, because your brain is, when you're an FTO, your brain is doing enough questioning as to if you're doing the right thing or am I really cut out for this?
That's true.
So I think it was really important that I never felt that from my FTOs.
So, did you ever question your stature? And I listen, you and I are friends for life. Stature and presentation when you're a police officer. You can be a small police officer, but have a hell of a lot of presentation, and the streets will understand that. Just like you said, they know when they're being treated correctly. They know when they're not. But being a smaller statured female in law enforcement, did you ever feel intimidated by that?
Yeah, honestly, I think maybe intimidated isn't the right word, but I definitely understood the power of command presence quickly. And I had to come by that honestly, right? Yeah. I'm especially in my early 20s, I was maybe a little bit more demure of a person than I am now. But I know in FTO there were a couple experiences where I was put right to the fire, figure it out. I remember a call. So there's this kid that's super drunk, but way too close to me. Yeah. But I understand now, way too close to me. But I was letting it happen because I didn't have that command presence yet, right? And finally, I say something to him. I shove him back, and I hear Marcus go, "Yeah!" So that was just...
Hey, when your FTO is telling you as a recruit, keep doing that. That's a great feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I remember that being a moment, kind of like a glorifying moment. Like, all right, I'm good. I can do this,
Well, and that's why I appreciate you so much, Hannah, because you understand your strengths and you understand something that might not be a strength. I would never say a weakness. I don't really see a whole bunch of weakness in you at all. But the streets can get nasty, man. People will try to kill officers to not go back to prison, to get away with whatever they're trying to get away with. You can end up on your back. You can end up disarmed. This is a real profession that requires a real strong command presence. And I think for every female that does this profession, they have to accept that. It's not me saying that men can do it better than women, but even if you're one of these male police officers that's never really gotten dirty, right? You don't have a sports background, a wrestling background. You don't do jiu-jitsu on your free time. You've never boxed or anything like that. And you're just a regular guy that's never really been in the shit. That moment can be wildly intimidating, and it can lead to disastrous mistakes. Mm-hmm. So as women in law enforcement, I think it's absolutely important to accept what you feel are your strengths and to address what you think might be your weaknesses. Absolutely.
I think that I would be lying if I was ignoring the correlation between my stature and my skill sets. Yep. Right. I had to get good at talking to people right away, because if I was to go out there with the ego or the demands and the yelling and all this that some people are able to get away with, I'd have to cash that check. Right. Yep. I'm sub 5 foot. I got a lot of strengths. Yeah. I'm pretty good in a ground fight. But yeah, I'm not,
right, low center of gravity.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. But I'm not trying to write checks that I can't cash. I had to get good at talking to people.
Is the key.
Yeah, right. I think it's important to the viewer that's listening and meeting Hannah Idalski for the first time. The kind of support that I got from LPD throughout my career was incredible, and I know that you got it too. You came on to the violent crime team, and Rob and I felt it was absolutely necessary to give you a nickname, because we thought listen, in order to be, we accepted you for your ability. We knew that you're a bomb ass a female cop. We knew all that, but when you get on a specialized team, you have got to get a nickname. And sometimes you earn your nickname in error, or sometimes it's given to you in love. And Rob and I sat down and we thought real hard about this, because we don't want people to judge you by your inability to do your job based on what might appear like a dynamite in a little package. So we decided that the appropriate name for you would be Tattoo. And a lot of people didn't know because Rob and I are generations before you. But for those that are listening and understand where tattoo came from, it's not the tattoo of the body, but there was a show back in the day called Fantasy Island. Great show. People went to this island to correct their relationship issues, and then they left the island madly in love, and for all intents and purposes, their life worked out perfectly because they took this voyage to Fantasy Island. However, a very, very important part of Fantasy Island was Tattoo.
His name was Tattoo.
His
name of the show was Tattoo.
No, the name of the show was Fantasy Island.
No, but the character's name that you're referring to is named Tattoo.
Tattoo.
Yeah.
And this guy, his character was a giant, like as far as personality. Not so much in stature. Hey, you think maybe we could pick up so the viewer understands for the younger viewer too?
Yeah, because not everybody's going to understand the reference here. But I think it's important. Z, pull up, grab on YouTube there, Fantasy Island Tattoo.
We were on the violent crime team. I was nicknamed Leroy, short for Leroy Jenkins, and I don't know if a lot of people know who Leroy Jenkins was, but his name came up from a video thing where essentially Leroy had no self-control and he would run into a burning house and do all, you know what I mean, without a whole lot of thought. So that was my nickname given to me because of a couple of incidences where I
because in the video of Leroy Jenkins, everybody's playing this video game online or whatever, and Leroy Jenkins is like, I'm going in, Leroy Jenkins, and like ruins it for everybody. Yeah. And like the other people are playing this game, be like, damn it, Leroy, you got us all blown up or whatever. Like, it was great, man.
Yeah.
So
I accepted that, and I was like, wow, are they saying something about me? Do I need to slow down? And I took it to heart, and then it was what it was. We ended up nicknaming you Decibel.
Yeah,
because
that's last I checked, decibel is a measurement of noise.
Yes,
right.
Yes, and you were on the higher side of the noisy.
Yes.
So when you got fired up about something, everybody heard it. Or if we were on a call that required the passengers of the car to cooperate with our verbal command, your octave was that of that little whistle. You could name me
octave. What? But decibel fits though.
The little whistle the dog can only hear. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like shit, shut it off. You know what I mean? So we all accepted it, and then we named you, and you were very gracious about it. But to give some context to it, this is a famous tattoo.
Tattoo's the one on the left.
Yeah.
There he is.
I mean, look at the suits.
Huh?
It's a token of appreciation and respect for you, my friend. Open it.
What is this show? Look at this.
It looks a lot like the car. He's got his
own miniature golf cart.
Dude, it looks like the car that we gave Hannah when she got on the team.
Hey, that ride is clean.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Tattoo.
Yeah, so there you go. That's how you earned the name Tattoo.
So that leads us to the segue. I mean, if you're going to tee up the violent crime team, and we've all got nicknames, radio names, and this and that, like, let's open the door here for VCI.
Violent Crime Initiative,
Violent Crime Impact. So you can call it Violent Crime Initiative, Violent Crime Impact Team. You know, I'm not going to go into statistics because it's just way too much, right? It's not important. At the end of the day, the statistical part of this, you know, how many guns we got, how many, you know, felons we caught, and this, like, it was all off the chart. Right. But I think what is the most important piece of the puzzle is you had a group of hyper committed cops that were 100% sold on the mission of, if there is anything that we can do to reduce violent crime in the greater Lansing area, we will go to the end of the earth.
Yep. And wild partnerships, right? We had
partnerships.
Tri-county partnerships. I think the largest, most important component to the violent crime team, I think, and I think it's still to this day, was getting the Michigan State Police to be part of secured city policing. The value that MSP brought to this team, because I worked at the very first team that LPD had. I was fortunate enough to work on that team. We were without the assistance of the MSP. When you guys got on the team, my second time on the team, we had the luxury of working with MSP, and what I mean, it was like a steroid shot to the arm.
It was unbelievable.
And plus, those guys
man,
were
those guys were
dynamite.
good.
Shout out
So
to,
good.
to John Fascio, the first sergeant, to lead his troops on this inter-county team that focused primarily on preventative violent crime, finding those accountable for shootings. I mean, Hannah, watching you get on that team, and for the others too, I'm not leaving anybody out, but you're our guest today, so the shine goes to you. You adapted and learned and became so valuable in what a lot of people would find not necessarily the car chase, the foot chase, but the development of cases, the paperwork that was presented in federal court. Please share a little bit of that experience, what you felt about that, the pros and cons. But watching you catch your rhythm finally, and I don't know when it actually was, 6 months in, 7 months in, whatever. But when I remember your first binder, there was a particular target, and the feds were asking for an outline that read well in court, and you showed it to me, and you asked me, "Hey, Kaz, do you think this is what they're looking for?" And I looked and I read it. I'm like, I'm about to get kicked off the team.
You're getting laughed right now in the binder department, bro.
Dude, they're about to kick my booty off this team.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I was so impressed by that, and so were the feds. But explain that to us, because I think that was a part of why we feel that you're a great representation of what how successful females can be in law enforcement.
I think the reason that VCI and our team worked so well is that we all had different strengths.
100%.
We could not have a team
Damn right.
of 5 causes because you couldn't get anybody on the phone, right? You couldn't have 5 Robs. You couldn't have 5 Hannahs because it wouldn't work. So I think part of that settling part on the team was finding what my role was going to be, right? And that was, I've spoken before, my ego check a little bit. What is my role? Am I going to be the guy in the foot chase, or am I going to be the one telling you which guy to go chase, right?
Yep.
So I think once I kind of found that rhythm, that was good. I really enjoyed that aspect of VCI. I liked the sniper kind of aspect where I can work on things behind the scene until it's time to go in.
So you explained earlier that you were an intern, right? Did any of that help when you got into VCI?
Oh yeah, definitely having that history of like longer casework helped. It helped with some organization and a little bit more understanding of what federal courts were going to look at, because I think that was, for all of us, we were kind of testing the waters with our partnership, with the ATF and with the feds, and seeing what that federal prosecution could look like.
Yes.
So trying to take the raw police work that our team was doing and polish it in a way that it goes to Grand Rapids was something that I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I loved being on the road and doing something gritty, right? And doing something that really, really mattered, and then seeing it through all the way to the end. I got a lot of satisfaction out of that.
And how cool was it? And Rob and I talk about this all the time because it was literally the best part of our career. But how cool was it to develop these relationships, right, with the ATF, right? And not only with the ATF, with the FBI, right? But most importantly, with our own people. I mean, here's another shout out, and I know I'm giving a lot of them, but how awesome was it working with Andrew Stevens?
Amazing.
Andrew Stevens is
hyper committed from the prosecution side.
From the prosecution side, and he always wanted our cases to be rhythmic, to have the content we needed to have, to support the charges that we were seeking, and then to make sure that the city that he works for got the best result for public safety. I mean, I saw you build a relationship with him. I saw you build a relationship with our federal partners. I saw you build relationships with everyone that was involved in the process at a very early time in your career. You know what I mean? So anybody that challenges the idea that women in law enforcement are limited, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. And you're a perfect example of that. Kosh is going to be a guest on the show. And I love the fact that you said that she's one of the most impactful FTOs that you've had in your career. So where are you currently with Lansing Police Department?
So I'm recently promoted. About a year ago, I got promoted. And I'm currently assigned to the jail, to our city lockup.
Okay. Explain that.
So we're a pre-arraignment facility. After people are arrested, they come and they stay with us for a couple hours, up to 72 until they go to court and they're arraigned. And then the decision is made there whether they're taken out to the county jail for a longer term hold or released on some kind of bond.
What kind of impact do you think you can have in that position?
I think it's a great opportunity. Not only there's a new group of people that I get to work with, some civilian employees, which they've got such a powerful perspective of the way that things work. But also you kind of get people. It's great practice for crisis management, right? Because you get people at ground zero. You get people, they're in talks, they're in crisis, they just got arrested, their world's falling apart, or so they feel. So it's a great practice ground for de-escalation and making connections with people to hopefully, people got to go to jail sometimes, right? But that doesn't mean that everybody that goes to jail is a bad person. Not everybody that gets convicted of a crime is a bad person. Right. Sometimes they make a bad decision for any litany of reasons.
Right.
And they have to answer for that decision, which I'm there to help them have to answer for it. But there's also an opportunity to bring a little humility into the situation too.
Yeah.
You're the jail sergeant in 2025 because and you're going to love this road that I'm going to go down here, right? Like when we were hired on, you hired on in 98. I came in 99. And for the first vast majority of our career, what was the sole purpose of road patrol?
Take the incorrigibles to jail.
Take people to jail.
Yep.
That's the way that it was. And I don't think anybody that was working in those days would argue that. I mean, yes, we took tons of calls and we took tons of reports and, everything in between from being on the street. But the sole purpose of the primary purpose, I should say, of road patrol was fix this problem. And if you can't fix this problem, find a way to put someone in jail and we'll fix it that way.
Right.
And
as long as they earned it.
Oh, of course, yeah. You're not. I mean, I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm not saying you're going to make something up on somebody.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that. No, of course not. But the rule book is pretty thick, and you can find the appropriate page that can hold somebody accountable. Right. And this is I'm only speaking for myself, right? This is my Rob Forbes. This is my opinion of this portion of the podcast only, and in my. I don't want to say advice because that's a bit strong. But if I had any influence now, looking back since I've been retired, especially I would say in the last 5 years ish, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit more, the trend has been taking someone into custody and going down to the jail is in some way or shape or form an inconvenience to the jail staff. Like we're too busy for that, or that's not what we're about. And I would just encourage you, and I know that you're the sergeant and there's plenty of administration that's above you that's going to pull the levers on what decisions are made. I'm not making this your primary problem or whatever, but you do have influence, and the influence that you do have is the officers that are coming into the jail, bringing an arrest. And a lot of times people that we arrest, they've got something else on board, right? They've got a component of maybe mental illness or alcohol or drugs or all the above or XYZ 1, 2, 3. And they come up there and they're uncooperative. If they're uncooperative going in to the room with the bars on, imagine how they were on the street. We all know that. So I would just encourage you, as the influence that you have is, the culture has, and this is 100% my opinion only, the culture should shift to at least maybe we don't want to go back 98, 99, where all we want to do is the mission is how many people can you arrest? Like I'm not saying that maybe that works in 2025, but it has to be at least the officers that are bringing someone in who's been arrested and that person is uncooperative, that the officers somehow did something wrong, because that I've seen and that needs to be fixed. I
agree. I've seen that too. This position has afforded me the opportunity to see behind the curtain a little bit. I have a greater understanding for the liability and the things like that can go on. But I can't help where I came from, right? I came from people like you.
Yes.
And I believe that a full jail is a happy jail. I think that we should be qualifying the fact that we have a jail and not paperworking everybody to death and waiting on a warrant that might never come. So I agree. I think people need to go to jail. And I think it's our job to manage that. When I'm up there on the third floor, you're welcome with your arrest.
And here's the thing that can never be. It's something that's seen in hindsight. We don't make that arrest and something tragic happens, right? Mm-hmm. You've got the drunk person who clearly is a violation of whatever ordinance, misdemeanor, or whatever, and we're not taking them to jail. Then something terrible happens. There's no getting terrible back.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if we're saying we're avoiding the going through the process of taking the person up to the jail out of the inconvenience of people looking at you saying, what are you doing? We got thousands of calls on this is the third time this guy's been back to this house. He knows what not to do, you know what I mean? To do something severe, but then he does. You can't take that back. And I don't ever want to be on the backside of that. That happened to me about 3 times in my career, where I felt like I had the beat on something, and I talked to people, and they didn't see it quite the way I did, and then something terrible happened. And that's the worst part of trying to do something correctly.
Right. And
when you have the resources to do what you need to do.
Oh, absolutely. And just like we're seeing, I mean, arrest management is a whole thing, it's a whole concept, but I think that includes bonding. Right? How many times have we heard lately in the news about people that were out on bond and did something horrible, right? That's all part of the process. That's all proper arrest management, charging, all of those things start with road patrol.
Yep.
And then it's our job at the jail to make sure that they're properly handled, that the paperwork is airtight so that we don't have to worry about those issues in the future.
I 1,000% agree. And I would use the example of something as simple. Rob and I are working on VCI. We're doing some hotspot policing. We recognize somebody that with the criminal history, we know that they're a felon. We pull them over. We take a gun out of the car. We got there legally. We obtained the gun legally. We made the arrest legally. We literally changed the course of something, right? But we don't know what that something is. We don't have the luxury of knowing what that is. But goddamn, make the effort to change the direction of what potentially could be another crime.
Mm-hmm. Action.
Yeah,
will always be better than inaction.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, you'll never knock me off that.
Yep.
Right. There's making a decision and making some effort to make this better. And if it involves arrest, it's better than just rolling the dice and letting it ride and hoping, crossing our fingers that it works out on the street.
Essentially, that's what changed the domestic laws many, many, many years ago, right? Remember, the old school cops would go there, walk it off.
Yeah.
Well, then women started dying. Women started getting killed. And then it was like, no, if you've got enough to make a misdemeanor arrest, make that arrest. You're not here out of convenience. You're out here out of purpose. You know what I mean? Post 2020, right? George Floyd, bam. It happens. It changes the face of law enforcement. Accreditations being implemented all across the country. Why are these police departments doing it differently? Or why aren't these police officers with body cameras? Why was the bond like this? And why isn't the bond like that? And everyone wants to reinvent the wheel during what I perceive as the most impactful incident in law enforcement in the last 100 years. It's okay to want to know why someone is living a terrible life, right? And it's like, whoa, they didn't probably choose this. This could be generation of crap. We don't have the time to go all the way back in time and correct a broken tree. what we have to do is provide public safety in that moment, right? And then the services that want to get involved afterwards, if you're for real about this, get involved. Get involved some way, somehow to correct that person's future path.
Right.
But law enforcement's primary commitment, and this is my opinion, is to address the issue in the moment. And once you've done that, you have guaranteed some level of safety. And you can't go back on that.
Right. And another benefit of involving an arrest or involving law enforcement in an official way, you know, like you said, we're not going to fix the problems that came before us. We can treat people with respect and we can maintain their dignity throughout the process. But if we involve law enforcement, we involve the courts, which means there could be a court-ordered type of intervention from another social agency, right?
Yep, exactly.
There could be court-ordered counseling or substance abuse treatment or things like that people might not seek on their own for any number of background issues. But this is something that we can intervene. We stop something in the moment, we make it safe, and we set them on a good path with court intervention.
Right. And it just got so muddied, right? I mean, the oversight, the reaction, the race button was pushed over and over and over and over again. And it's to the point where it's counterproductive, in my opinion. You know, I just think that an act of violence is an act of violence that doesn't come with who did it, what race was the person that did it. It's an act of violence and it has to be addressed, period. And like you said, if there's other resources that want to get involved after accountability has been enacted, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
I'm all for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to, you know, accreditation and all these things that came out of post-2020, I think it's normal if the health inspectors come in that you're going to panic scrub the counters in the back of the house, right? I think that makes sense. And so the reaction in law enforcement communities after 2020 made sense to an extent. But I think what we're seeing now is the penalties of the overreaction, right? We're seeing societally, we're starting to bounce back a little bit from this overcompensation of things that maybe weren't such an issue in the past. And that's not to say there can't be a space for reform, and that's not to say that there aren't things that we as a community can improve upon, because there always is.
Absolutely.
Right?
There always is, Hannah.
Yeah, always going to be.
Always
But
is.
I think by and large, this profession is full of good people doing the right thing, and the rest of it is kind of details. You know, I think, and especially speaking for my experience, the people that I get to work with every day, the people that I've worked with in the past, we're doing it right in a lot of ways. We're learning as we go, but we're really doing it right in a lot of ways.
No one's going to ever convince me that Lansing Police Department has not always been just a couple steps ahead of other departments. And that's not to discredit any of these other departments. Love them all. But there was a lot of effort by our previous administrators to make sure that we were getting the kind of training that we needed to progress, to evolve, and to stay current in whatever issues that we're dealing with. You know, and I'll never back off that. So, female, ton of experience, smart as hell, recently got married. Men do not have to worry about their careers being altered once, say, you have a child with Beau. Rob and I have children, right? Our careers were shaken up a little bit because we got babies now, and maybe we don't do this as much or that as much. But to actually be the birthing side of it, how do you see that? What's the future for the Idalskis?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, one that I don't really have an answer to yet. I know me as a person. I think I'm gonna want to be all in on that big-headed baby, right?
Because Beau got a big old head.
Not on that guy. I mean, my God. So I don't really know what the future looks like. I can tell you that I don't want to be an indoor cat.
Right.
I'm not meant to be an indoor cat. So I don't know that I see that in my future. But there is going to have to be realistic, mitigation between home and work.
Yeah.
Kasha she'll kill me for this. Kasha was breastfeeding when she was my FTO.
Yeah.
Okay. So a great example for me of, what motherhood and police work can kind of look like.
Yeah.
B, I also learned how important it is that the timing of that was right on, because I know if I was taking too long to write a crash report or clear up a scene or whatever, and she needed to pump, it was time to go.
That's a real thing.
To go.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Men don't experience that.
Right.
And as dedicated as I know Kasha is, right? It doesn't surprise me that she's got all these urgent things going on, but she's always trying to do the right thing
Right.
for whatever it is that she's being urgent about.
Damn right.
100%.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I don't know what the future is going to look like there. I'm excited to figure it out as I go, though.
Yeah.
You know, we'll figure it out, but I don't have any immediate intentions of changing the way that I do things. Just got to figure out a different way to do it.
Right. Right.
So the beautiful part is we've got Kasha coming in the studio next week. So we're gonna make sure that she knows that you divulge that, so that she's gonna have the last laugh.
Yeah.
That's gonna be interesting.
We're gonna know all
Oh yeah,
about
man.
Hannah's
Oh yeah.
weaknesses
And
in
I'm
FTO.
gonna be like, guess what Hannah said about you?
She's going to be like, let me tell you about that bitch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to share a story that you and I and Rob were a part of.
It ties it all together, doesn't
Yeah,
it? It really does.
So we talk about women in law enforcement. We talk about all this experience. We talk about everything that's good and bad and in between.
Talk about making a connection.
Yeah. This to me, it was what qualifies you in a picture frame, right? And not only that, before I ask you to get into this, I just want to say thank you. I had a moment in my career where I landed flat on my face, and your beautiful kindness was there. And to this day, you've never looked at me any different. And I can't express in words how much I appreciate that. Chokes me up a little bit, but
Me too.
you were so needed in that moment. And I will forever be available to you, to Beau, to big-headed little Beau, or whatever happens later in your life. I didn't know that I would have this type of opportunity to thank you, but I do, from the bottom of my heart. So, having said all that, there was all of us were on VCI, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So there was a shooting. It turned out to be a double homicide, and we were out working streets that day, I believe. We were available. Fill us in.
Well, I think God put the VCI team right in the area of King and Malcolm X when there was a shooting that would go out nearby. So we were all pretty Johnny on the spot. Kaz was the first one there, and I was behind you by about 10 seconds. But it's definitely one that'll stick with you, you know. And I know all the other cops that have been on this one where they feel the same way. But it ended up being a triple shooting, two fatalities out of that shooting, and a child victim. So that's kind of where my attention was spent at first. Kaz, when you got there, you go in the house and you discover at least one of the fatalities and a kid that had been injured. And then when I was pulling up behind you, you handed me the baby, and things kind of, the gas was hit after that. That shooting would end up encompassing so much of our VCI career, so much it became an example of so many things
the
for
15, 20 seconds that if I could just explain it to really kind of set the the imagery here. As law enforcement people, we're cursed with the memory of stuff, right? And sometimes it triggers the smell of something or the sound of something. I get there slightly before you. I could still smell the gun smoke from the firearm that was used. I get out of my police car. I get on the radio, I believe. I said, step it up or something.
Give me everybody, is what you
Give
said.
me everybody.
Probably said hold the air.
Yeah.
Just
I
saying.
could have said hold the air. I think I probably should have said hold the air. I think I did.
You probably said hold the air. I'm just, I'm guessing.
I think exactly what I said. I said, hold the air. Send me everybody you got. Yeah, because you said it the next day in lineup. I approached the steps. I could see one of the victims halfway in, halfway out. Everyone else gets there. We go in. We got to move fast. I can see the second victim. I come across this little guy in the kitchen of this house by himself. And how old was Giovanni?
6.
6-year-old Imagine a 6-year-old in the kitchen, shocked, with a bullet graze on the side of his head. I go in there, I scoop him up. He gives me his little bear claws in the back of my uniform, and I'm running out. And I'm just, the only thing I could think about was like, what the hell just happened here? You're the first person coming up. He's literally trying. This kid is a stud.
God.
They need to get rid of maybe Jefferson on Mount Rushmore and sneak in a little picture of Giovanni up there. He is trying to tell me with everything his little 6-year-old body can muster that he can help me. He knows who shot Grandma, but he can't get it out. He's literally like, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, buddy. And I turn around and I needed some help. And there you are. Here comes Tattoo running up. I barely saw you, but come running up the driveway. And I'm like, and I handed him to you. And that connection is just as strong today as it was in that moment. So yeah, if you could explain what currently and what's happened since all that.
Double murder. The kid is injured. The audience is going to be begging to know the adjudication here. Do we get the guy? We're gonna come back to Gio in your relationship with him. That is the whole crux of the conversation here. But it's important, I think, to conclude the story of the scene. The justice was done. This person is in custody, never getting out. All of that. Right. So it's not like this is a cold case or anything like that. Like it's very much not the case.
Yep.
So please tell us about your relationship with this young man since
the sidewalk moment in front of his house.
Since Kaz is running out of the house with this kid saying, "Here, have a shot, kid."
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah. No, so that night I rode in the ambulance with Gio to the hospital. And I was able to stay there for a little bit, and then unfortunately it was time to hand him over to patrol and go to work with VCI and go find that guy.
Yeah.
So it didn't turn out quite that way. It would turn into a months long investigation and a lot of hands that would touch it. But we've had the opportunity to reconnect with Gio a couple times since that day, which is really cool, really good for the soul, and really good for for our hearts.
So Gio calls you on a regular.
Yeah, we talk
connected.
sometimes. We get to FaceTime sometimes, so I really enjoy that. We were able to do Shop with a Cop together, which is it's been my favorite day of the year every year since I became a cop.
Yeah.
Just kind of fills your cup back up, after all the things that we see.
Yeah.
So we got to do Shop with a Cop together. The Riding Towards Success program, where they provide bikes for kids, we were able to kind of assist with. Yeah, to assist with that effort to get Gio and his sisters some bikes. So
shout out to Ryan Kramer.
Man.
Shout out Timbus.
Shout out to Ryan Kramer. I don't know how traumatic this still is for Giovanni and his family and everyone else that suffered a loss that day. But another example, right? I don't know if a male police officer could have made that connection in that moment, right? Whatever you believe in, however your whatever ideology guides you through your life, in that moment, the right person needed to be Hannah on that sidewalk.
And there's nobody better.
Nobody, and that the mothers have emotion, fathers have instruction. That's how I grew up. But my father's fantastic. Later in his life, he's a lot more, hey, love you too. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. But in that moment, man, I don't think Giovanni could have landed in a better place. And for us to continue our relationship with Giovanni through Delhi, through all these other, it's the thing that I think about. I don't know how many times in a day, but I didn't make a mistake picking the career of law enforcement. And anybody that's looking to get into the career of law enforcement, if you want the Cliff Notes, it's written by Hannah Idalski. And if you can't handle the Cliff Notes, go back to school. Do something else. Yeah. Powerful story. That was amazing.
But that's who you are.
Yep.
And that's why we love you.
Yep.
love you guys
the
too.
follow through especially with the violent crime team, so much of that culture was what? Hunting the bad guy. That's what we did, and we were freaking good at it, right? And I think a huge reason why we were so good at it is because, you hit on it a minute ago, knowing our roles, and you touched on it. My role is not going to be throwing somebody across the room. That's not my role, and that is okay.
Because if Hannah says throw that guy across the room, guy get thrown.
But in the same breath, the areas that you ran circles around us in so many other ways, but that still contributed value to the investigations that we were doing as a team. And I think that is the most important piece of the puzzle when it comes to small specialized units like that. Is so many times, we've heard over and over that an officer in a specialized unit like VCI, that they need to be well versed in every category. And I would argue against that, because that's what brings the team together. And there are areas that you and I were wildly inexperienced, don't even know, don't even care, but has investigative value. It's just not going to be us.
Well, social media.
Social media has incredible investigative value,
right.
But it ain't going to be us.
Right.
And the irony is, here we are on a podcast on YouTube and all these social platforms, whatever. And this is the only reason we're on there. We didn't have any of that our whole lives, right? But to circle back to you, I love the part that I love probably the most about Hannah Idalski is you know who you are, you're confident in who you are, but you're also aware enough that if there is someone in this arena that's on my team that's better than me in this, then I will do my thing, you will do your thing, and let's come together as a team and let's win. Because ultimately, that is the goal, and that's all that we care about. It's not the tug of war. And that's why
the personality tug of war, right? That's what we're talking about. Like the personality,
the personality tug of war,
the chemistry of it,
the chemistry of it, because it can't be. It will never work if we have this personality tug of war that my component of this investigation is more important than yours. And here we are in this tug of war, so to speak.
That was my favorite part, bro. Like when we got some closure to something that was either long term, short term, a quick hit or whatever. The celebrations in our little office space. We'd come up the stairs, and our office was at the end of the hallway, and we'd be like, "Woo!" I mean, the room just had this energy in there, and it was so much fun that we were a balanced team. I don't think that team would have been balanced without the presence of a female police officer.
Absolutely. Well, Hannah specifically too,
right?
But she's just so sharp, and it really helped. You spoke of putting a federal investigation together. That is a ton of detail, and it's a ton of work, and it's also an area that you and I don't necessarily excel at, but she does. And so when she would spearhead these major investigations and tell us what was needed to fill gaps, so to speak, it's so refreshing to just as a team know, okay, here is the top 5 most violent incidents that we're investigating. How do we get them to justice? And we huddle up and ready break, and we go. And it's not the same play every time. And I think that you have, I think that you have a very good vision, a very good peripheral vision. A lot of us get locked in on tunnel vision. I know I've been guilty of that, where I get laser focused on one particular component of one particular thing, and I think you have very good vision for the whole field of view. And that is an incredible asset to have on a team, combined with your willingness to step up when it's your arena to step up and add value to this as a team, and also recognize, wait a minute, y'all, we have John Cosme, aka Tom Brady, on this team.
Yeah.
When he's bringing something to the table, that is the play.
Get that man the ball.
Get that man the damn ball.
No,
that's the fact.
Well,
that's the truth. That's the fact. Like you can downplay it all you want, but the fact of the matter is, there's one quarterback, right? And this is the play we're running, and it's not open for discussion.
Well,
and that's why it's efficient.
Well, I tell you what, though, you guys corrected me a lot, right? I mean, there was moments where you say, no, I don't think that's going to work, or hey, there was a traffic stop we had. I won't go into details, but I was moving way too fast. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, slow down. You know what I mean? So all that value we talk about, it's so important. And I mean, for the theme of the podcast and the series is women in law enforcement. I don't even, I'll be honest with you, as we sit there and we wrap this thing up, I don't, the honor is to say women in law enforcement, but I never classified you as anything other than someone who was extremely capable. Gender had nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. You know, I think that for me and the other guests that you've spoken of in this series, being female is the least interesting part about us.
Right. Sure.
You know, we're
identify with the work. Let's identify with the work. And you identified with the work 1,000% over.
Yeah, this career has been a complete honor from start to finish, and we're not over. Yep. we got lots of time left.
Shout out to Chief Backus again for allowing us to have current employees on the podcast.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. And also, I think when we were talking about the jail, and I kind of put my own opinion on the importance of the jail and everything, I think it's important to recognize Chief Backus has said since day one, building this new amazing multi-million-dollar facility for the police, the courts, and everything else, we are not losing our jail facility for one day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's good leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You can apprate that. Yep. So
hopefully you'll be out of the jail by then.
I'm about 6 months into a 2-year bid. So.
Yeah. So
thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much for coming on here, and sharing your experience with us. This felt like exactly what I thought it was going to feel like. An old conversation in the VCI room.
Yeah,
I love you to death. I love you, Beau. I love everything about the Idalskis. Thank you so much.
So this is my favorite part, and hopefully yours too. As we wrap up, what would your advice be to maybe there's somebody out there who's brand new, coming out of the academy or newer, and they're trying to figure out their rhythm. You've got a huge resume, Negotiator of the Year. Congratulations again on that. Could not be more well-deserved than you. Recently promoted, involved in peer support and explorers and FTO and all kinds of different aspects of this. And we're thankful that you have such a huge influence on the department because, girl, you're carrying our torch. And we're trusting you with that. And you're here because we do trust you with that. That's the biggest lever that I could ever tell somebody is passionate as Rob Forbes and John Cosme are about the Lansing Police Department and the lead into this podcast, for us to look at you and bring you in this room and say, we value you enough and we know you're the one and those like you that you're going to do this job the right way and make us proud.
And let's not forget that torch was handed to us by some badass cops before us, right? That this torch isn't the Kaz and Rob torch. This torch was lit by some amazing police officers decades and decades ago. But when you find that niche and you know that you're doing this job right, you want to make sure that thing continues.
You're so damn right.
What's your advice?
I mean, first, there's just no bigger set of goosebumps I could ever get than to be told that by you two. So thank you for that. If I had to give some advice to new cops. Don't be too cool to care about people. Don't be too cool to care about the call that you're on or the day that you had. Give your call the attention it deserves, but don't be too cool for it to affect you later, because it's going to. And if you don't pay attention, or if you are too cool for it to bother you right now, it's going to in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. So take the time to care about the work that you do. Do it the right way. Care about people. Care about your coworkers. Care about yourself. Take care of yourself. Those things are all way easier said than done. But you'll find that if you're doing this job the right way, it makes the job really easy and really hard all at the same time. So the work that you're doing becomes easier because you listen to people and they're compliant, and you get your investigations, and you do all of those things, right? But when you care, when you touch fire, you get burned a little.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting with someone in their real feelings at ground zero of their life, you're going to be affected by that a little bit. So don't be too cool for that.
Love it.
Love it.
Thank you,
Hannah,
Joe.
we love you so much.
I love
Thanks
you
for
guys.
coming in here. Appreciate you coming to the studio. Thanks for being part of the series that we're dedicating to the women in law enforcement. You were the top of the list to get in here. Appreciate you.
I love you guys.
My
Thanks
man,
for having me.
Always.
Yep.
Go Lions.
Yep.